Carbon dioxide emissions could fall by the highest percentage since the Second World War this year due to the lockdown caused by the coronavirus pandemic. A group of scientists from Stanford working on global emissions data have also estimated carbon output could drop by 5% or more worldwide. Now, this is the first ever dip in carbon emissions ever since the 2008 financial crisis. 12 years ago, when the world was facing a recession, carbon emission had dropped by 1.4% due to shutting down of factories and loss of businesses. However, this time there are more reasons for climate to have gotten better. The coronavirus pandemic has brought two-thirds of the world to a standstill. More countries continue to remain under lockdown. And with the world seeing restrictions on people's movement, minimum transport of goods, very little vehicular traffic and closure of factories, carbon emissions are likely to drop significantly. Experts believe that a huge drop such as this has not occurred in the last 75 years.
When I look at what's happening now, though, transport's about a quarter or more of global carbon dioxide emissions. If the economy stays slow, if transport stays down, we could see a drop in carbon dioxide emissions this year of 5% or more. And that may not sound like that much, but we've never seen that in the past 75 years, maybe going back to the end of World War II, when the economy kind of crashed as everybody came home and we stopped making tanks and airplanes and blowing them up. Only then did GDP really crater. And that's the kind of change we may be looking at now. So nobody who's 75 years old or less has ever seen anything like this.
Earlier, climate researchers and experts had warned governments across the world to take initiatives in reducing carbon emissions. Scientists had also raised an alarm. Had global emissions not dropped by 2020, then the world would witness worst impacts of climate change. Unfortunately, the reduction in carbon emissions is for the wrong reasons. Lockdowns, complete shutdown of factories and manufacturing units, and restriction of people's movement and grounding fleet of airlines is primarily the reason to contain the virus from spreading.
We've been measuring CO2 there since about January, and we have about 6 months of data from last year to compare it with as well for the same time period. And it's been quite surprising to see how much of a reduction in CO2 we're seeing. But in CO2, methane, CO, a lot of the stuff we're measuring, I was very surprised at how much has dropped away over the last 2 weeks.
Experts have also warned that these short-term improvements that we see in our climate could be short-lived. They have confirmed that greenhouse gas emissions are likely to shoot up once again once the pandemic ends. However, they also suggest that bringing in structural changes would prove to be extremely beneficial in fighting climate crisis.
It's a short-term, okay, at least there's something improving. If you're asthmatic, it's much nicer to go for a run right now. It's not going to last that long. So as soon as everybody gets back to normal, these emissions are going to start, unless we decide to do something different.